All right, welcome everybody to episode number 13. This is the first episode we've done with two guests. They've been previous guests of the show already. I kind of figured they would be good guys to talk with at the same time. They can bounce their ideas off of each other. Um, but yeah, anyways, so no new announcements really. There's nothing new around here. Just thanks for all the support in 2025. Um, yeah, so two popular faces. You've seen them before. Mike Bernard is a 15-year student of the fire service. He has spent his time with the Arborvita Fire and Rescue Department and recently started working with the Iron Mountain Fire Department in Michigan. He's an instructor slash contributor with Midwest Fire Training and Tactics and a member of the Oath Keepers cadre. Mike is an author in the Book of Search and the creator of the Inglorious Bastards. He's a master scuba diver, trainer, and has been an avid technical diver since he was young. He is fortunate to share his passion for the job at local trainings and national conferences. Mike is also a newly promoted assistant chief with the Arborvita Fire Department. So congratulations, Mike.
Thank
And
you. Thank
you're
you. Enough
welcome. You're
about me.
welcome. Yep. Tyler Whitfield is a lieutenant with the Clearwater Fire Department. He has 12 years of experience and is currently assigned to Engine 49. He is a member of the Pineless County Technical Rescue Team and a fire instructor with the Clearwater Fire Department. He's an instructor for the County Technical Rescue Team and the lead instructor of the Grab Factory class. He's scheduled to teach at the March Mayhem Conference in 2026. Thank you both, gentlemen, for coming on. And anything else to add to any of that?
No, you hit everything. Appreciate you having us.
Yes, sir. So, kind of start this, and I know it's going to go all over the place, but at least in my head, there's a lot of differences here. So, career fire officer in Florida, a volunteer fire officer in Wisconsin, right? So, two completely different sides of the country, different settings and the firehouse and everything like that. So, um, I guess we could start off with like the training, culture, mindsets, differences, and I guess we'll just give it to Tyler. You can start first. But the training and everything with your guys, like who's showing up on this day, and this day, compared to Mike, who's got a balance of training where there might have 20 guys this Monday, and then the next Monday there's like 8 people, and it could be different people. So like the differences like that, and then feel free to bounce off ideas with each other, and however the conversation goes, we'll roll with it.
Yeah. So honestly, to me, training is training at the end of the day, right? Whether you have the 20 guys this week and 20 different guys next week, the mindset and the objectives that you're going to hit at that particular training shouldn't change necessarily based on who you have. It to me, it would matter, in my opinion. Like I said, I'm career, so I don't really know how the volunteer side works too much. I had a little exposure to it early on in my career, but I'm sure it's changed a lot since then in the last 12 years. So for us, I mean, like you said, you hit it on the head. We work with the same people all the time. The only caveat there is, you have overtime or you have fill-in people floating in and out of the station, new guys, all that kind of stuff. But honestly, at the end of the day, the standard that you set forth, that should be what you train on. Not who's coming to the training, but what you're training on, to me, is what's important, in all honesty, no matter who you have coming.
Yeah, for sure, Mike. You wanna add anything to that at all?
I think that that's exactly what we need to be looking at. And I think that our metrics that we're looking at, regardless of if it's career or volunteer, don't change. The time is the time. And whether I'm a volunteer or a career fireman, this is the time that we need to strive for. Sure, it might take the volunteer guy a little bit longer to pick it up because he doesn't have that every day, a 24, 48, whatever it might be, that he's working in the firehouse. But your goal as that line officer, senior man, command staff should be that if this is a goal that we're going to try to obtain and try to push for, this is the metric. And this is what we're going to set for a goal for everyone. And if we're going to push to that, whether it be masking up and everyone's going to be under 20 seconds no matter what, then push for that goal and just make that a standard across the board, regardless if you have once a month, once a week training. Those guys can come in on their extra time and do that for free. So encourage that extra training so that they can come in and really push themselves to that limit and set those goals. And once you obtain and meet those goals, then set new ones. And you can do that simultaneously, and you can do that together as one. But realistically, I really don't feel that we should be setting the bar differently for volunteers just because we have less training time. We can still do the same stuff because the expectation when we are on scene at a fire is that we're going to do the same thing. So like I've said before, if we're going to say same job, do the same job.
Yeah, I think just to kind of piggyback on that just a little bit, I actually just listened to one of your podcasts earlier today. I believe it was The Scrap, where you talked about toxicity in the fire service, right? And I think, to me, I don't really view volunteers differently than career firemen because, again, like you just said, the expectation is when you show up, the fire goes out, the victims get rescued, the job gets done, regardless if you're being paid or not. The only difference should be a paycheck. And I think that somehow in the fire service as a whole, we've created that divide. We've created that difference, or that, whatever, that ideology that volunteer and career is different, when at the end of the day, the job is still the same. The objectives are still the same. The fires are essentially the same. They're hot, they're smoky, they're dark. There's people trapped. There's animals trapped. There's everything that can go happen on a fire happen. It's still happening regardless if you're being paid or not. And I think we as a fire service created that divide that's made people have these mindsets.
Yeah, that's well said. And how would you, both of you, but Tyler, like, how would you go about mitigating that divide? Like, how can we get rid of that? Because there's people on both ends of it, volunteers and career, that make that divide. So how can we get rid of that?
Honestly, having people like Mike, in all honesty, you know what I mean? He's out there, he's taking classes, he's doing all the things that a career person would do, right? As like people would see it online. And at the end of the day, it is a career still. It is something that he's doing as a life, as his life, and his reason for doing it should be the same as somebody who's being paid. People who are being paid for something and doing it just because they're paid for it, you're in it for the wrong reason. So I think that as a career or a volunteer, vice versa, I think we just need to get into that mindset of, we're doing it for these reasons. We're doing it, as servants. We're doing it to help the public. We're doing it to, be good at our job. And that should be your motivation for being on the job, and not money, being paid or not. So to me, that's kind of where, as a fire service, we need to start really pushing that, is that, you're doing it for the right reasons, not because you're being paid.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, do you want to add anything onto that? If not, we can. I got another question.
His Wi-Fi is lagging.
Yeah, I can't. Hello?
Still here. I got real laggy. Sorry, I got real laggy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. I just asked if you wanted to add anything.
No, and I to kind of go with what. Yeah, and to kind of go with what Tyler was saying too. I think that it's about going to the outside conferences, and it's about going to some of the different things where you're going to interact with the career side of things and the volunteer side of things, to see that the standards that we set are equal, and to push yourself to be at that bar for what we determine as a group nationally, that this is what the level of acceptability is, and we all need to push ourselves to get to that spot, versus I'm going to stay in my bubble in my career house, or I'm going to stay in my bubble in my volunteer house, and this is just the way it's going to be, and we're not going to grow or do anything different because it's worked this way for 40 years. Why would we change? So I think it's tough to really break the mold, But if you're the one guy that can push it and get through the wall and break that wall down, others will come, and it's going to take time. But once that happens, the positive influence that you can have, not just within your own department, but within an entire area, is so massive that you could create a whole group, a whole department, or multiple departments of absolute studs. And they could be volunteers, they could be paid on call, or it could be career guys. Like, push yourself to what the best standard is, set the bar, and just keep pushing. Don't give up on it.
Yeah, definitely. How often are both of you specifically training, whether on your own or with your crew? Like Tyler, how many hours or how often on shift is your like focus and goal to say like this time is where we're gonna focus on training?
Honestly, we set aside some time pretty much every shift to do something. Obviously, we're there for 24 hours. To me, it doesn't matter day, night, weekend, holiday. I personally will train every day of the year. My crew is pretty aggressive. We have a pretty good culture in my firehouse. I have a lot of eager younger guys. I have a senior driver as well that wants to get after it all the time. But we try to set aside a couple hours a day to specifically do something, whether it be hose stretching, forcible entry, building construction, building walkthroughs, area familiarization, driver training, whatever the case may be. We try to set aside a couple hours. And our department's very good about allowing us to go delayed for that time if we want to be able to do that with the company. But even when we're not delayed, we'll still do stuff. We'll still pull lines. Sometimes on runs, we'll actually do like an impromptu training. A while back, we had a commercial fire alarm we went to where we're like, hey, we kind of parked in a weird spot. Let's see how this stretch would look if we had a fire here. And we just stretched a bunch of lines for 20, 30 minutes while we were still on scene afterwards, just taking that time to stay on the call and just complete those trainings. So we try to do something. It might not be very specific all the time, depending on calls and stuff like that. But just like the other night too, one of my guys was like, oh, I saw this hose stretch. It was pretty cool. Let's see if we can implement this for us. And it was like 11 o'clock at night. And he's like, do you care if we go out and do it? And I'm like, no, I don't care. So we went out at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night the other night, and we were stretching lines, out in the bay and in front of the station. So day or night, it doesn't matter. We try to do something every shift for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Mike? I think he's froze again. Lost him.
That's all right. I'll expand a little bit on that.
Bear with me
since he gets back, until he gets back. But yeah, we have specific stuff that we have to do every month. Like right now, I was out teaching today or facilitating our company training. So once a month, our department puts us through something as well, where it could be a range of different things. Like this month, it's a breathe down drill, just incorporating like a handful of skills, and it's for time just to see how long you can work continuously on a bottle until you go on vibro alert, and then you do some static stuff, just for a couple minutes just to cool down in your gear while breathing air. So there's specific stuff that our department requires us to go through every month. It's different stuff every month, but yeah, as a company, we do it all the time. And as a department, we do it at least once a month.
Got it. Yeah, that's awesome. And I know, like, I've said it before too, I think on ours, so like that's not, at least I know, like that's not the standard everywhere, so I love to just throw like the social media, like your posts and Bernard's post too. Like I know it's motivation for me at least, and I know it is for other people too, so I think that's a huge part of that as well.
Mike's back.
Mike, do you want to I don't know if you caught like where you cut out, but just talk a little bit about how often you yourself train, how often you as a department, whether Arborvita or Iron Mountain, train, and then kind of what your expectations are with that.
I think that if you're looking from the volunteer side, you have a pretty common standard that it's going to be once a month for a meeting, once a month for a training, or sometimes they combo it together. You are not going to get enough out of going to a business meeting and then trying to do an hour's worth of training afterwards. It's just not reality, because you need time to develop skills. Without muscle memory and skill acquisition through time, it's just not going to work. So, in my opinion, I feel that yes, the once a month is good to get everybody together to train, but it is free to go down to the department and work on stuff, do mask ups, do ladders, whatever it might be, and include smaller groups so that they're coming in on the weekends when they have more time or whatever it might be. Because if you're not willing to put in a little bit extra time, and again, you're asked a lot, I get it. But if you're not willing to put in a little extra time to chase some of those goals, the reality is you're not going to get good skill acquisition and good muscle memory, because you can't touch something 1 month and then not see it again for 6 months and expect to be good at it. That's just not reality. So you have to put in the time. You have to put the onus on yourself, because if you don't put it on yourself and don't have that conversation with yourself and look in the mirror and say, when it's 3 a.m. and I need to mask up, throw a ladder, and VES a window because someone's trapped in there, and have an expectation that you're going to do a good job because you trained on it 6 months ago, you're lying to yourself. And we need to get away from the idea that just doing that every once in a while is acceptable, because it's not. You need to go in, you need to work extra time, you need to mask up. And what is 10 minutes? What's 30 minutes? What's an hour out of your day, out of your weekend? That's nothing. I mean, you came home on Christmas break and you wouldn't stop calling me because it's just like, hey, let's go train. Hey, let's go train. But guess what? It's me chasing more goals. I want to make sure that I can still smoke you on mask ups. But now it's you're chasing your own goals. You want to beat me. It's that friendly competition. That's how we do it. And again, the firehouse is there. We can go there anytime we want. We can do whatever we want. Ask permission, boom, go do whatever you want. So don't make the excuses that there's not enough time, because guess what? We're all busy. I'm busy. You're busy. Everybody's busy. Make the time. Prioritize it, because it matters.
Yeah, and from the career side, the same thing goes for us, right? We have 24 hours in a shift. Some people are way busier than others. Some firehouses run way more calls than others, right? All right. So some people say the same thing in the career side. Well, we don't have time. Well, guess what? When you leave at 8 o'clock in the morning to go home, most people you'll talk to at shift change, you'll say, hey, what do you got going on today when you're leaving the firehouse? Oh, nothing. Just gonna hang out, see what the day brings. Well, if those people are not as proficient as they need to be on their skills, there is nothing that says that they cannot stay at the firehouse for 20, 30 minutes, like you just mentioned, and practice those skills as well. Those rigs are there. The people are there. I guarantee you half the people at that firehouse, if not all, would go out there and do the stuff too if you needed to work on something or want to work on something yourself. So from the career side, the same thing goes. I don't know of a fire department that says when 8 a.m. hits, you are not allowed to stay here. You are not allowed to be here. You have to go home, and you cannot pass go after 8 a.m. hits. Like, you can stay as long as you want for free, but you could stay and practice all those skills as well. So I think the same, it's all a mindset thing. Like I said before, it's a huge mindset thing to where if you want it bad enough, you can get it at fire conferences, at the firehouse, you can get it done if you want it bad enough.
Yeah, I mean, you both said it well. I don't really have anything to add on top of that. And I think and I'll just touch back on the social media part, because that for me is what drives me a lot, right? Is seeing you and this person over here doing all this stuff. It's like, okay, well I got to catch up, and having that group of people to train with, even in where Mike and I are in a small area, we have a decent group of people that like to train and do stuff like that. So that's super awesome. I kind of want to go. We can keep talking and talking about training and everything, but I kind of want to go over into the new guy. And I know I've talked about both of this, or I've talked about this with both of you before already. But kind of having you both on at the same time to hear each other's thoughts. Like I said, Tyler, your probationary firefighter is showing up tomorrow, right? You have this amount of time. Mike, it's the opposite, right? So what's what's that look like, our focuses, and I'm like that young person right now, like I'm 18, so I kind of have an idea of what is something that I don't like to say expect, but like something that I would look for, and we can kind of talk a little bit about that. And yeah, so Mike, if you want to go that route.
So my expectation is that, I feel so many people come into the firehouse, and depending on what volunteer house you go to, it's really kind of a hit and miss on what your experience is going to be. I feel that if you are coming into the firehouse and you're brand new, it should be, here's your locker, here's your equipment, and here's the trucks, here's what they do, here's everything that you need to look at and see. Obviously, you have to get away or get the SOPs out of the way, the bylaws out of the way, things like that. But realistically, fold them into training right away, especially with the volunteer side. Like if somebody's interested in it, have them come a month before to your training. Have them come to EMS training. Have them look at that stuff, because if you can start folding them in even before they start going to school or even before they're signed up, you might spark that into them where they're like, man, this looks exciting. And then once you start getting them in the door, don't stop and push them aside because they don't know anything. Start folding them into the training right away and just show them what the expectations are, as far as, this is how we pull hose and this is the reason why. These are the types of nozzles that we have. Throw them on stuff even if they don't know anything. Because if you can start training them from day one with an expectation on how the drilling is done and how the training is done, they're going to kind of create that own op tempo for themselves, right? They're going to kind of move at that pace. They're going to kind of push themselves to that next step. And as long as you keep them hungry and have a kind of open book where it's like, hey, here's my phone number. You want to come down to the firehouse and do extra stuff? Call me. Shoot me a text. Let's get together. Let's do some of this stuff. Because now they're going to reach out to you when they're going to school. They're going to ask you to do more training, and they're going to ask you some different advice, whether it be gear advice, whether it be why do you wear things like that, why do you wear this certain type of helmet, why do you have this type of light, how do you hang it. And they're just starting to learn the trade, right? It's fire by trade, right? So if they start learning that trade and getting excited about it, just like anything else that you would get excited about with a job, bring them into that and allow them to have that seat at the table and just kind of keep pushing them into it. Once you got them excited about it and started showing them the ropes a little bit, start putting the time standards to it. Start explaining to them why, we mask up in 20 seconds or less, or why we're pulling hose and getting to the door and flowing water in less than 90 seconds. And explain the importance of it, because if they don't know any differently, then that's the expectation and that's what they're going to do every time.
Yeah. I mean, I see that like a lot, right? And I guess like it makes me think, I don't know, like last week, 2 weeks ago when we were training, and there's a guy that showed up who is not part of any. He just recently joined a volunteer department and hadn't gone to school yet, and kind of balancing that to like obviously the textbook, right, versus the real world stuff. But just kind of like taking that few minutes and explaining that stuff to a brand new person, I think definitely made a difference with that person specifically. And so I think all of that is super important. Tyler, do you wanna go down your road with that, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, so our process obviously is just a little bit different. We do a recruit school, so basically you'll get your fire standards, your fire one, fire two, and then once you're hired, you go through a 9-week academy, essentially that we teach the guys the way that we do it. Well, the kind of a problem that we've been having is they will bring these guys in and they'll say, forget everything you know. We have people that come in from other departments that have some sort of experience or not. And it's always forget what you know, forget what you know. This is the way we do it. Which I'm going to get back to the training thing and how we develop these people in a second. But to go off of that, my mindset is don't forget everything you know. Why? Everybody that I've met in the fire service that comes from another department, works for a different place, different state, different city, different jurisdiction or area, they have something that they can bring to the table. something that might benefit them or benefit our department in the future. So I always say, don't discount what people know or what people bring to the table just because they're new. I hate that, me personally. But with that being said, we put them through a 9-week orientation or recruit school, and they're taught the way we do things. So essentially, they'll do a hose pull or forcible entry, throwing ladders, everything that has to do with the fire scene. But then we throw them out there and have them do scenarios, which kind of drives me up a wall a little bit. And I've talked to plenty of people in my department about it, but basically they have nothing to go off of. So like Mike said, the important thing to teach these new guys that are coming in is the why we do the things the way we do it, right? Teach them the ins and outs of it and explain to them kind of the background as to why we do this, why we mask up this quickly, why we have to stretch the line this quickly, how does fire grow, what do smoke conditions look like, how to read smoke. These kind of things I think are very important for these guys to learn, because that all ties into the why in which we're pulling these lines, forcing the doorway the way we force, masking up as quickly as we do, getting off the rig ready to go. All these different things. I believe that the why is very important, and it's also a good way to engage them in, right? If we just look at them and say, hey, pull that hose line to that door because that's what we do, that's not good enough for a lot of people, especially in this day and age. The fire service is changing, and there's a lot of younger guys that are eager, but they don't accept just do it because that's the way we do it. You have to explain to them why in the application so they fully understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I agree with everything there. I kind of have just another side question for you, quick, that just popped up in my head. Um, Off topic, but on topic as well. If it were up to you, both of you guys, how long would you spend on like brand new firefighters, right? How long would you spend on teaching them the history of the fire service? No, kind of an odd question. Um, Given in like this is, I give them a few hours, like an hour, like at least I took now 2 classes, like fire one twice essentially, and it both have been a little bit different. And I've heard a lot of mixed opinions from kids I go to class with and stuff like that. So just kind of, I know it's a weird question, but kind of want to hear your thoughts on that.
So for me personally, I think that to me is kind of a good thing.
I feel that
oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
we have a place that
You're lagging a little bit. You can go ahead, Mike.
go ahead. I'm lagging real bad. So sorry. So in my opinion, we need to have some level of tradition, and we need to have some level of history, not only just with what the fire service history is, but with the departments. And I think that there are so many cool stories that are going to get lost to time if you don't tell them. That's why you have some of these departments that have like little museums. That's why you have some of these departments that keep some of the old stuff. I think that it's important to look at some of that stuff and teach that and kind of show how it's grown, or show the old, show the new guys like, hey, back in the day when I was doing this, this is what we used. So, I think that that's a super valid point, and I think it's important to teach a lot of the history, especially when we look back at major fires, right? The big thing with, your major, super important to review that stuff, talk about why we have certain drills and why we do certain things the right way. But, I kind of know where you're coming from, Adam, because of the textbook with the state. There's a lot in there about it, but it's, it's something that you have to touch on, but I really don't think that you have to go into some of the crazy depths that they do with some of the textbook stuff. I feel that if people want to explore that and do that on their own, that you should absolutely encourage it and keep encouraging them to read and learn about it. But I think that there would be better time used in the classroom for practical skill time on everything else.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Mike, I think there is a time and a place for it. Like I was going to say before, I think that should be done, to me. Like, obviously we're on 24 hours, our shift schedule. That stuff should be assigned to them in between the other main points that we're going to teach them, right? In between those skills, in between mandatory trainings, give them some stuff to look up, put on some videos for them. We watch Still Riding. We watch old fire videos all the time just to kind of keep that motivation, that spark alive when, we're feeling like we're just not going to go out and do something on the TV or tabletop something, which a lot of times will then turn us into motivation to where we'll go outside and do something after that. But I absolutely think that we should teach it in some capacity, but I don't think it should replace the skills that need to be learned to do the job. And specifically in my firehouse, we actually just started putting together an old school corner in the front of our firehouse. Like when you first walk in, we have like old pictures. We reached out to old members from our department and got old pictures of our firehouse from back in the day, old engines and stuff like that, old calls that were run, and we blew them up and put them in like the corner with some old firefighting tools and stuff like that as like not a memorial, but kind of to pay homage to that history that we have within our department and our firehouse. So I think that's kind of a cool idea as well. For people who are going to look to kind of put something in to their firehouse to have people remember it. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mike, I guess I'll ask you, and again, for both of you, put yourself in the shoes of a probationary firefighter and having an officer who is not like either of you, right? Who's not super into training, might be, close to retirement, just not very motivated, doesn't let you go out and do this and stuff like that. How would you resolve that issue without burning bridges? And how much of a push would that be, right? Obviously, with that officer having seniority and everything else like that, just kind of putting yourself in that person's shoes. How would you go about that?
I think one of the big things is that if you're having a problem with somebody who is an officer that is supposed to kind of be guiding you and taking you under their wing and doing good things, I think that one thing that you can do is continue to surround yourself with people within your crew and people who are close to you that are going to be, whether they be senior members, whether they be members who have been on for a little bit longer than you, and ask them the questions. Ask them for help. Ask them to show you where things are. Ask them to go out to the bay and train. Because even if your officer is not going to push themselves to go train and ask you to go do things, or is really not meeting your expectations, you can still do that within your crew. You can still go grab one or two people or however many are there and be like, hey, can you go help me with this? I really need to work some more on this. And then surround your people with other motivated people that want to do that stuff with you. And when they want to do that motivating level of stuff with you, you're going to bleed that into other people, and other people are going to start joining in. And just by the rule of attrition, either that officer or that senior member who's not doing it is going to then jump in with you, or they're just going to continue to not do it, and they're going to kind of put them on themselves on an island because they're going to get phased out of it completely.
Yeah. So specifically for career side, there's a lot of that goes on. There's a lot of people who aren't as motivated. There's a lot of people, we have 200 and something members in our department. So not everybody get out and get after it all the time. So I always tell the new guys, if you're in an environment that you cannot perform to the standard that you've even set for yourself, not even the department standard, but your own, and you're not learning everything you want, either reach out to me, reach out to any other of the motivated people in the department. And I encourage the guys that are also motivated to open their arms to those people within the department and be that mentor to them, whether they're at their firehouse or not. And like Mike said, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if you really want it, you can go out there in the bay and do stuff on your own. And inevitably firemen, their type A personalities, they're not going to want the new guy to go out and do them. Whether they're motivated or not, they're not going to be the guy that just sits there and says, yeah, he can go do that. I'm just going to sit here. Eventually, if you do it every single shift or you do it every single week after week, they're going to get up and come out, and they're going to want to impart their wisdom or their experience on you and try to guide you and take you under their wing. I've seen it a million times where, you know, on the career side that people are like, yeah, the new guy's motivated. I don't know why he's like that. I'm not like that anymore. They'll get there one day. And then the next week, that guy's out there teaching them something because the new guy continued to do it despite the other members of that department or station rather not wanting to go out there with them. So I think that the more you do it on your own and the more you show that want and drive, I think that you'll get people to join you eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know like I've heard from both of you guys too, like your actions, right, speak do a lot more than your words, right? And I've seen at least on my department, and I know there's some guys on my department that listen to this, but just from like day one, right, of learning this whole new flip to the fire service that I had no idea existed, right? And the push for change and more training and everything like that. And then slowly but surely, like seeing more and more people. Now, more and more people is like 5 of us on my department. To be honest, like it's not very many people, but from going from just pretty much myself to now a few more people has been super awesome. And a lot of that is just your actions, the like people that see you there early and everything like that. Um, yeah. So,
You mentioned
um,
social media too. That's a big one.
mhm. Yeah, definitely.
One of the big things for me is I've always been the way I am now, obviously on the job, in person, and online. I've always been kind of a social media person. It's just my personality um, and an expression, but also I've learned a lot from people online, you know, met a lot of people online, learned from a lot of people online. So for me, if I'm doing something, I don't do it as like a, hey, look at us. Hey, we're doing this. It's more of a, hey, if you want to do this with your own crew, try it out as like a motivation of like, hey, let's go do this because I saw this online. And specifically speaking, like we talked about before we got started here with Jeremy from National Fire Radio, that's how I got on there the first time is because he saw me on social media and he saw who I was and how I expressed myself. And he reached out to me to kind of go on the show and talk to him. So it, social media and that networking, people will attract, or you will attract people like-minded or not, that you know eventually kind of go that way that you're going. So I think that social media is important too, in networking, really in general, not just social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I'll have to do an episode here soon of just social media on itself because we can talk forever about that. Um, but I was gonna go kind of down the let me make sure. Yeah, I mean a little bit. I kind of want to keep just on the social media thing quick. About we talked about it a lot, but the negative part of that, right? And the people that obviously I know like maybe the short answer would be like just ignore like the negative people and the comments like I posted on Instagram like I don't know a few months ago about like just a mask up, and it was like so many comments about like I don't even know like people in Europe who do it faster and like Americans firemen are stupid and like everything you could imagine. So kind of just both you are on social media quite a bit, so just go a little bit shortly into the balancing the negative comments, and for some people it might not affect them very much but others it might. So kind of how you balance that.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think that one big thing that you have to look at with social media specifically is I think that, yeah, you're going to get some of the negativity in there, but I think it's very important for you to put yourself out there because one thing that doesn't lie is a video. And that's where I challenge myself a lot to do a lot of video. It's not for me to show off. It's not for me to be cocky. It's not for me to say, I can do this better than you. I can lift it. I can do this. I'm being vulnerable in the sense that if I have somebody who does this more than I do, or it's one of my peers, mentors, whatever it might be, that can look at it and say, you know, hey, why didn't you do it this way? Or, hey, keep an eye on that hand, or talk to me privately and be like, hey, your mask up looked really good, but maybe you can shave off a couple seconds here. Those are great ideas that can come into play. All the rest of it with the trolls is just noise. Forget what they say. Don't get into arguments with them. Don't engage with them because you're not going to win. They're going to keep pushing and they're going to keep trying to get under your skin, and it's not worth it. The people that actually care about your development and the people that are doing it for the right reasons are going to get in there. They're going to DM you, they're going to talk to you, and they're going to foster that positive growth because they have a vested interest, even if they've never met you before, because they actually care about the job and they care about making good firemen. And, that's the one thing that I think social media is good for. But I can even remember back into the day where I'm a self-proclaimed YouTube fireman, because around here we didn't have anything that was like cutting edge. So I was looking at YouTube, and the good old days of when things go bad, and the West Coast offense and Black Sheep Rebel Club and all of that went to YouTube. I sat and watched those videos, and I was like on it. I was like addicted to it. And it's like, where do I go to find this stuff? Where do I go to find these people? And once I started finding what conferences were and I started going to it, it changed my life. And I am super thankful for it. But that's the thing. You can't let it get you down, because if you listen to the people who are going to be constructive with it, it's going to far outweigh the noise that the trolls are going to be throwing at you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't know that I'm going to be able to have a response that comes even close to that answer there. That's pretty solid, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that once you get into it and once you start figuring out what works for you and what you need, seek what you need, post what you need, and do it for the right reasons. Just like Mike said, if you're doing it to get critique, you're doing it. Inevitably, people are going to have a critique, good, bad, or indifferent. And honestly, that's what we do it for. If you're going to post something, people are going to critique it. They're going to give you the positives. They're going to give you the negatives. Sometimes it's the same person, but also look at who's commenting, right? Whoever comments those comments, are they somebody that you would even take advice from? If it's not somebody you would take advice from, or it's not somebody that you would reach out to, say thanks, have a great day. And that's it. Don't let it eat you alive. Especially when you're doing your thing for the right reason. You're doing it to be vulnerable, like Mike said. You're doing it, to put yourself out there a little bit, for somebody to give you feedback. So take the negative feedback for what it's worth, but really attach yourself to that positive feedback, because that's what's going to drive you to continue to be better, and find out who really does care about you and who really wants what's best for you.
Yeah, for sure. It's it's interesting, the whole idea of the social media thing, and I'm sure like for the older people that are on social media, not having that at the start and having it now, and seeing all the stuff with that, it's crazy. So kind of switch the conversation. I love like hearing about just fires and right and everything with that, and I would listen to both of you like for an entire week straight about it, but I want to know what is going through your guys' head as you pull up to a working fire. And obviously, like we know the differences, like I said at the start, volunteer versus career. Mike, he pulls up and he might not have another truck for 20 minutes, or he might have one truck from this department and one from here. And we don't have, a set, there's going to be this many people on this truck, where Tyler, that might not be the case. So I guess, Mike, you can start it like, main things rolling through your head, and I know we've talked about it, but I would just like to hear that more. And then now, with your new position, right, some changes and everything with that.
I think that one thing, and this is where I think that you have to be a really good officer. And when I say you have to be a really good officer in this sense, is that when I look in the back and I don't know who's going to be showing up, and I see that I have a crew of brand new guys, or I have a crew of seasoned guys, or I have a mix, versus what my consistent, crew is going to be. We train for 24, 48 hours. We're super dialed. We're default aggressive. We're going to be doing, aggressive search, aggressive offensive attack. It's kind of a decision maker, where how deep into the weeds are we going to get? Because we still need to do the mission. We still need to put the fire out. We still need to search the building, but we need to be very tactful on how we do that. And I feel it's super important in that volunteer side of things that you can have a guy who is training at the top of his game, and then you can have another guy that shows up that's at the bottom. how in training, and this is I challenge the officers and I challenge the chiefs and the training officers specifically too. How are you going to find them at that happy medium? What are you doing at your department so that everybody is getting to an achievable happy medium, so you don't have to question what your strategies and tactics are going to be on the fire ground when you arrive? And it's, again, 3 a.m, you got people hanging out of windows and people are screaming and your adrenaline is pegged, because that is not the time to make that decision on what you need to do and how to accomplish it. I can tell you right now, if I roll up and I've got an engine full of killers, like, I need to say 2 words maybe. Let's say we get assigned vertical vent. That's all I have to say. If I go look in the back and I say vertical vent, I don't need to say anything else. That's what they're going to do. But there might be some that I have to coach a little bit, and that's okay. I'm going to be a little bit more hands-on with them. I'm going to walk them through a little bit with what we're going to do. Otherwise, if we're arriving and we're first due and we need to accomplish a search, we're probably going to be searching simultaneously with fire attack, whether it be off of the line or we're splitting off. If I'm going in with my crew, I'm probably going to squeeze them on the shoulder like I normally do and say, hey, I'll be right back. And I'm going to go dump into some rooms, get a quick search in, come back, make sure that my nozzleman is comfortable doing what they can on the fire attack. If I've got guys with hooks pulling ceiling, and just kind of, monitor what's going on, but not necessarily micromanage, because my expectation is that I'm training these people and I have them doing enough and they're listening to me, that they just need to be firemen at a certain point. You have to let them be firemen, and you need to coach them and show them on what you're doing, especially on the volunteer side. When you're coming back out for a bottle change out or you're going to rehab, one thing that I started doing that I really enjoy is I'll talk to my crew right away while it's fresh in my mind, while we're sitting in rehab, and just be like, hey, when we went first in and we did this, why did we do this? Or, when we were looking at the fire from the outside, what did you guys see? And if we're all talking about it and doing it while it's fresh, you're teaching them and they're learning and they're going to remember that. And so that the next fire, you don't have to babysit them as much, because they're going to be learning. They're going to be seeing things in real time. But again, I think that that's one of the biggest challenges that we have, is how do we develop and get to that same point so that everybody is squared away enough that you can let them go be firemen, but you have to kind of have a little bit of a leash on them in that sense. If it's a newer person, or let's be real, you just don't have a person that's seen a ton of fire. And, that's a reality that we face. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of fires that we fight that I know when I get into the engine and I see who's back there with me and I take a look at that crew, it's just like, all right, man, go time, let it eat. Like, we're going to go to work and we're going to get after it. And I have a ton of confidence that I can put these guys in positions, because, like Adam, there might be times where we're 10 minutes a drive, and the page came in 5 minutes before that, and now it's like, okay, we still be somewhat aggressive with it, but we have to be smart and we have to make sure that we're not going on a suicide mission. You're not going to ask anybody to do that, but you have to be smart with it and you have to have people squared away with it. So that's what I feel personally.
Yeah, like I said earlier, as far as the whys, right? Mike kind of hit on it in rehab or before or after the call. I share a lot with my guys that me as an officer or a stereotypical officer in my department might not do. I share with them my mindset, what I'm thinking about, why I made a decision I made. I include my crew in a lot of decisions in and out of the firehouse, more so to train them on the fly of like, this is what we're thinking, this is why we're doing this, and create that team culture to where everybody's firing on the same cylinder when we get there, right? If it's my regular crew for the day, I typically have the same crew every day. So honestly, like it kind of does. I'm fortunate in that sense, right? Because when we pull up on scene, I know what my guys are capable of. I know their strengths. I know their weaknesses. They know what I expect, and I know what I expect of them, and what I should get from them before we even get dispatched to the call for the day. First thing when they come in the morning, I can tell what kind of day they're having. I ask them how they are. I try to get that, idea of how they're feeling that day. So I know, am I going to get 100% today, or am I going to get 98% today? Am I going to have to pick up that other 2% when we get there or not? So when we get to that fire, I may say nothing. I'm going to give my size up. I'm going to get out and do my 360. I'm looking at 6 sides of the building, listen to the radio, looking at the pre-arrival notes, and kind of starting to get our mode of attack as we go. One of the big things that I like to do on the way there is I like to keep my crew calm. I don't let them get fired up, even if the notes are kind of eerie or there's something in there that could alarm you. I try to keep them as calm as possible and just talk to them, have a conversation on the way there. Because, yeah, it's time to lock in. But if your training is solid enough, you should be able to have a conversation on the way there. And when that air brake gets pulled, it's time to lock in and go. So I keep that kind of more casual vibe in the engine on the way there, to keep them calm. So that way, when you get there, they're rocking. They're not ramped up right off the rip before we even get there. They're ramped up there, and their performance is going to show for it. So I have my expectation with them prior to where if I don't say anything, it's the rear 200. If I say, hey, we're going to stand by the engine, I'm going to do my 360 and I'll radio to you what line to pull. They'll stand by the engine, right? I'll call that audible in route or as we arrive on scene. But typically I tell them, this is what we're going to pull. If I don't say anything, this is what we're going to do, right? That's part of the expectations prior to, and that training leading up to the call, that really matters. And again, telling them the why of these certain things, short setback, far setback, just doing that training. It all goes back to training and prepping for that thing, because at the end of the day, when you get to the fire, all it is what you do in training. There's no difference. It's just real life, but your skills should still be the same. Your tactics should still be the same on that attack. So like Mike said, if I have a fill-in, I may not put them on the engine that day. We have a rescue or an ambulance in house. And our department's big on seniority. But if I don't feel comfortable with that person that day, I might put them on the ambulance because they'll be the backup guy. I don't have to rely on their stretch for how good that fire is going to go, right? They're going to learn that fire, and the next time they might be on the engine because they saw how we operate. But I try to do that as an officer and not set ourselves up for failure before we even get the call, by putting people on the engine that I'm not comfortable with. But I have that leniency or that fortunate ability to do that. Not everybody has. So I try to do that. But on scene, honestly, to kind of answer your question specifically, my mindset when I get there, I'm doing a 360, getting 6 sides of the building, find out where the fire is, right? If we have no confirmed victims trapped or anything like that, we're default interior fire attack. I'm on an engine company, so that's our job. In our department specifically, we're very fortunate that we have true truck companies. We have a heavy rescue that's kind of a jack of all trades. If they're first due, they'll be truck, they'll search or whatever. But for us, like, I'm an engine. Our job is fire attack unless we're hanging out of a window. And then we're making that rescue, and then we're defaulting back to fire attack. So my driver knows if we have a victim visible from a window, we're going to get him. He's stretching the line, right? If we have confirmed victims trapped, we're still default fire attack. We may put our line in a different location to try to hold back the fire from that victim's last known location, but we're not going to forego fire attack on my engine company because there's confirmed victims trapped. We're going to have a truck company coming, or even a second due engine that can be assigned that task. But me personally, if I have my rescue with me, my ambulance, I train on search with all my guys. So once we get that line in place, I will absolutely let them branch off and search. I'll absolutely have them search that immediate fire area, depending on who I have. If I have my regular crew, 100%. But if it's a mixed crew, I may keep them there. I may be the one that dumps in, like Mike said, to a room or two and do a quick search. One of the last good fires we had, we found a dog inside. We were doing fire attack. There was no confirm of anything in there. And I had my rescue branch off and search. And next thing you know, they're like, hey, we got a dog. And it started squealing and they brought it out. So just being aggressive like that and knowing our training and defaulting to what we know and what we do. I have a little saying for our guys that, subconscious skill set creates a conscious mindset. So we drill on things until it's subconscious, where we don't have to think about pulling the line. We don't have to think about forcing the door. We don't have to think about what way we're going to put the Halligan bar, or what way we're going to do this. It's subconscious. So then when we do have to think on the fire ground, we're able to in a controlled manner because we're prepared for it.
Yeah, that's well said by both of you. I could not add anything to that if I tried. And I love both of your words about not talking so much, right? Like Mike said, he says two things, like two words, and then people just know what to do because of the training you guys have done, and I think that's super awesome. Um, there's a question in the chat that I'm going to ask to Mike, but first I had want to ask this one to you, Tyler, and I had asked this in Mike's Facebook page, the Inglorious Bastards, 30 weeks ago, and I have it pulled up, so I'll just read it to you word for word, and then Mike, feel free to jump in to this question too whenever you'd like. I'll just read it. So you're on a smaller department, volunteer or career, and your training / leadership isn't in the proper mindsets. You're dispatched to a structure fire where there is clearly searchable space to be searched. Your officer or even IC says nobody is going in the structure, period. At what point do you make the call yourself to not listen? And I'm not talking about a true, fully involved fire, but one where it's clear that there is space to be searched. How would you go about this without being insubordinate or without freelancing? Maybe a dumb question, but just want to hear your thoughts.
You said Mike's already answered this question?
No, you can go. I got one for Mike after this, but you both can jump in either way. So Tyler, you go ahead and answer that.
Yeah. So I mean, in all honesty, it depends on the condition. It depends on the condition in the fire, right? For me personally, I'm a very visual person. These questions to me are hard to answer in a for sure manner. Just obviously because I'm in a different perspective, I guess, because if a chief is on scene and says absolutely not, like if they're on the scene, they're looking at the same picture I have. We actually had this happen in our county not too long ago. I'd say a couple of years ago. So a while back, the first two company, I'll give you an example of this because I personally don't want to answer that because I know what I would do, but I also, my chief sometimes. But as far as that goes, right, if you're first on scene to that and there's searchable space in our SOPs specifically, like if you're first on scene, you're like unofficial command until a command officer gets there. So if there's searchable space and you feel that you can do it, right? Nobody's going to tell you from far out or that's not on scene not to do it. And what happened was they had confirmed victims trapped or reports of confirmed victims trapped, and there were victims trapped. And the engine company that got on scene first said they're going to go in and try to perform a rescue with fire attack. And one of the responding district chiefs got on the radio, and based on their size up and what they said on the radio, which again goes back to kind of what Mike was saying, sometimes less is more on the radio, right? We're trying to paint that picture for the crews coming in, but don't always paint the picture just as you see it. Paint it as you want to do tactically, because somebody might come in over the radio and say, no, don't do that. And now you are in that predicament. If they would have just done it because they're first on scene and they're in command, essentially, because they're the first unit there, they could have made whatever decision they want to do, right, wrong, or indifferent, and rolled with it and had a reason for it. But what they did is they got on the radio and painted this picture that this house was getting it. And the chief got on the radio and says, do not go in, by yourselves. This is defensive fire, or I forget what they even used terminology, but they didn't go in. So because it was a direct order from a chief officer, and if they disregarded or disobeyed that direct order, they're going to face discipline for it. It just is what it is. And everybody views that differently. So I'm not going to get too far into that, but if they would have just got on the radio, given their size up, and then done what they would have done, it would have been no problem. So to me, to answer your question in a very conservative way, do what you feel is best based on what you're seeing and based on your experience and expertise and the abilities of your crews that are with you. But if the chief's on scene and telling you not to, that's kind of a fine line. You have to know within your own jurisdiction and your own department what those repercussions will be and kind of outweigh them in that moment. I wouldn't say to do it, but I also wouldn't say for sure not to do it. So just because of that. So if that kind of answers your question, I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, do you want to add anything onto that?
I really think that Tyler hit it on the head with exactly the way that he explained for that. I think realistically that if you're first due on that and you don't have a chief on scene yet, and you have to make that decision as a company officer and or the people that are going to be senior, whoever's riding in there, that you need to be default aggressive with what you're going to be doing with fire attack, with what you're going to be doing with search. It has to be realistic, and you have to let the training kick in, and you just have to know what you're doing. And if you're going to go for it and not sit around and think about it and overthink it. And I think that the big thing that Tyler talked about too is with that radio traffic, right? Is sometimes less is more. Radio in with what you've got realistically with what you're going to do and paint that picture on what you're going to do for your operation. Um, from, from there, like I would agree with everything else he said. I really don't want to necessarily paint a picture one way or the other based on the hypothetical, because that's such a liquid situation, and how it could be so fluid with the differences that you could have and not actually seeing it really, say a sure on that.
Yeah, gotcha. So this next question is in the chat, and Mike, I'll ask this to you, and then Tyler jump in after. But Uvalde officers are on trial for not acting quickly enough in the school shooting. Do we have that too, or is firefighting different? Now, you can fill in the blank with what department, right? Like Wakeman or Mike. The department, right? Have the opportunity to do something to make a grab, and they don't do it, right? What are the legal repercussions? It's kind of I personally don't know how all of that works, so I would like to hear your answer to
that. I think that the way that I've heard it worded best from a lawyer on an Illinois case in which the departments got sued because the mom said my adult son is in that window, and no one ever went into that window to try and get him, and they found him just on the other side of the sill. I don't know how old that one is, but one of the things that remains in my head is what that lawyer said, and I'm paraphrasing, but one of the big things that I took away from it was our expectation of the fire department is not that they just show up and spray water on the fire. Our expectation is that if we are in the building and we are trapped and they can make an effort to come and get us, our expectation is that they try to come and get us. And when you look at that, I truly feel if you cannot look at a fire and say to yourself that I have the training and mindset and skill set to go in there and do an offensive attack, search it, be confident in it, and or pull somebody out of it and give them that best chance, you really should rethink what you're doing here, because a fire not so long ago, perfect example with that quasi locally regionally here where, it sat on scene and there was a victim on the inside and it took another department coming in to go get that victim out. And it's like, how do you look in the mirror? How do you sit and say to yourself, like, I did the best job that I absolutely could? And that's the mindset, like in Arborvita here, that's what we have in our engines, is that we have a big placard and it says failure is not an option. And that's that mindset that, like, when we're going and it's hitting the fan and it's time to work, we got to work. People are depending on us. That's why we're here. I truly believe that how the landscape can be shaped and changed with the legal ramifications, whether it be from officers or members who are actively choosing to not go into a fire that has survivable space, whether somebody be on the phone, which we've seen a case of, whether someone be told a direct room or a direct path on where that person is, and they choose not to go in there. I feel personally, and I'm speaking exclusively for me, that is completely unacceptable. And you should probably go sell cookies at Walmart, because this job is inherently dangerous. if you got into this job to wear a t-shirt and a pager, or you got in this job for the paycheck, or because you get to take naps, you're doing the wrong thing, and it's unacceptable. And I truly believe that once we see wrongful death suits go through and negligence go through, I mean, we can't leave somebody on a medical call. What's the difference? Why would we leave somebody when we had an opportunity to make a grab? And again, I've said it before, I would never ask anybody to go do something that I could not do myself. And I would never ask anybody to go on what would be a suicide mission. But the only way that we know is if there's occupiable space and someone's not inside of a bathroom inside of that house, is until we physically go in the house, make an aggressive attack, and search that house and make sure it's clear, period. And I think that, we're one bad video away, one bad news article away nationally, and we're going to be in the same boat as the cops are. I mean, with the riots or the scrutiny that they're under. And that's just a reality that we have to accept, and we have to be better, and we have to hold ourselves accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. To go back to your situation there where you said that there was somebody right inside the sill, right? If we're getting reports that somebody's trapped in there, we joke about it all the time at work, and it's so true. We say, you never get fired for what you did do, you get fired for what you didn't do. So if you make a decision and you try to roll with it and it doesn't work, then regroup and make another decision based on what you have. So if somebody's inside that window and you decide, hey, we're going to VES this window, and you bust that window and there's fire blowing out of it, and you cannot, without going on a suicide mission, like Mike said, get in that window, either reposition a hose line to protect yourself like they did up in North Florida, Captain Stone up there, or say, listen, we've made an attempt, go in another window, go in another side of the house, try to knock back the fire and put the fire out, and then go try to rescue them, right? There's a bunch of different variables there that can be done with that particular situation. But to stand out there and say, no, we are not going inside there, I agree with Mike 110%, then you should not be in this job. It is an inherently dangerous job, but at the end of the day, that's what we're paid to do or not paid to do. That's our job, right? We have to go in there and we have to occupy the space where these people might be and attempt to make that rescue and attempt to make that fire attack. I joke all the time. I say I'm default offensive on every fire because it's way harder for us to go from defensive to offensive and justify it if somebody gets hurt than you are offensive to defensive. So I'm always a default aggressive, default interior attack, default, we're going in and putting the fire out, because at the end of the day, as long as we made an effort to be inside that building and occupy that space, we're doing our job, right? Obviously, things happen. Fires grow. There's weird houses. There's weird things that happen that cause the fire to get out of control. And sometimes we lose it. Sometimes we win it. But at the end of the day, you have to have that forward progress and that mindset that we are going to occupy the space, go inside, and we are going to put the fire out. We're going to search it. We're going to overhaul, and we're going to pack up and go home.
I don't know what to say to those answers. I mean, it's perfect. Like I have like goosebumps almost, and I'm like, I don't want to be in my dorm anymore. Like just sitting here, I want to like go take a run. But anyways, like what you guys said is so important. And I'll just read YouTube user's comment. He says, fire department has a legal and moral obligation to do everything possible to save life and property. There's a difference between trying all you could and failing versus just not trying. Training is key. And I think that sums up like everything perfectly, right? Like the fall back on your training, and there is a big difference between trying all you can and failing versus just not trying at all. Lane Neal, the man himself, has a question. Mike, I'll throw this one at you. How do we get people to understand that their performance really matters? That good enough never truly is.
It's really hard. I personally think, and I'm going to speak specifically from the career side with this, because I think this is one of the hardest things that we need to address and we need to make a push on. I feel that if we can challenge people in training and we can have people dragging actual other humans and we can have them forcing doors and masking up and advancing hose, and we can make them dog tired after one evolution or one adult drag of maybe a moderately sized person. I think we need to set that reality in for them to show them that this is not even a hard task that we gave you. If you're not prepared to do this, what are you going to do in a hoarder home with a 300-pound person? The reality is, it is a hard job. Not everybody can do this. And we have to not only hold ourselves accountable, but we have to hold others accountable to it as well. And I feel that one easy way to kind of start that on the volunteer side of things is that if we start making things that are not necessarily a requirement or a required physical or things like that, but you make it a training where we start with air consumption training and we have a physical agility test established and set up, and people can start going through that, or you start doing it as a relay and you turn it into something that's fun, that's challenging for people, but then you can sit them down and have them graded green, yellow, and red, and have them in different categories to just have a sit down with them and be like, hey, it took you X amount of minutes to do this drag and you were out of air. Is this something that you're going to continue doing, or maybe is interior firefighting not something for you and we can find something else? It gives them an opportunity to put a goal on themselves, right? So they can improve, they can get physically better, they can push themselves to get to that standard where they can get to that yellow or green where some of the other guys might be. Because what are you going to do? Get rid of all the volunteers? If that's not a reality for your area and you don't have that career side of it or the paid on call side of it that you can hold people to standards, then you have to figure out something and be creative with it. But I think exposing people in training by just showing them what reality is will get them to wake up to it. And I think you're going to get more buy-in if you learn how to present your ideas to them in a way that it's not going to be a requirement or you're going to push people away, but you're going to make it something that can be fun, can be a good team building thing, but we're still accomplishing that goal by trying to make everybody better. And then just say, hey, let's all get together for a workout now. Hey, at the new gym that's X amount % off, let's go have a workout, every night of the week, or just do something at the firehouse where it's free. If you can incorporate that in and do that with people, and again, you don't have to kill them. You don't, Lane Neal's asking the question. You don't have to do a Lane Neal level workout. I see his workouts; they're nuts. But you don't have to do that, and that's okay. But if you can feather them in at small things and give them small goals to accomplish and keep building from there, they're eventually going to be excited about working out. They're going to be excited about training and doing those drags because, again, it's that motivational factor. Bleed the motivation into everybody else around you and have fun with it. It's the best job in the world. This shouldn't be all serious all the time. Have fun with it. The undertones are obviously serious. What we're trying to do and accomplish with the mission is serious, but we can have fun along the way, and that's okay. And if you can do that and build that into your crews, you're going to be hugely successful with what your culture is going to be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. What up, Lane? But yeah, I'm just going back and kind of reading the question so I make sure I hit everything here. So getting people to understand that their performance really matters. That you can't really make somebody want something that they don't want, right? But like I alluded to earlier with, being that squeaky wheel that gets the grease, right? From an officer's perspective, if I'm sitting on the couch all the time or sitting there doing nothing all the time, not motivated myself to go out and do these things with the crew, it's going to bleed into them, like Mike said, to create that culture of laziness and not wanting to be better every day. So for me as the officer, no matter where I'm at, if I'm on overtime, if I'm on a swap, if I'm not at my own firehouse, if I'm floating out riding a truck or something, I'm going to do something still. And I'm going to get at least one person or two other people to go out there with me. And by the time we get done with that training, somebody else is going to come out. So it's not necessarily about making sure that they understand that their performance matters, but it's more so important to make people want to be better every day, right? Because inevitably, the more you do something and the more you train on something and the more motivated you make the people around you within your department, your company, the better your performance is going to be. So I don't think it's so much making people, want their performance to be better, but just being better every day, just a little bit. And inevitably, when that time comes to run that call, whatever the call may be, your performance will show on the fire ground that all the work you've put in was worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah, well said. Again, Tyler, I don't know how specifically your department with the physical requirements and stuff like that work. Um, Appleton Fire Department, their full time department, where I go to school, and they have from recruit to chief a yearly physical, like a CPAT, right? And you pass it, you get like a Christmas bonus, and if you fail, I think you get like another try to do it again, and then like you get you're fired pretty much. I could be wrong with that part, but kind of hearing your thoughts about the annual or maybe more than once a year, department wide from the recruit to the chief, how that kind of works at your department, and then what are your thoughts on it as a whole?
So specifically at our department, there's nothing that we have necessarily that can cause you to be fired or let go based on an annual or semi-annual performance like that. If we have specific instances where somebody's not up to par, they're going to be trained. They're going to be, they'll go through remedial training, whatever the case may be. Like right now, we're doing our breathe down drill. And basically, it's a set of skills, and you just do it until failure, essentially, or, when you run out of air, or you're low on air and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, we don't have anything that's really per se set. This is what you have to meet, or you get put on a plan of any sort. It's just not something that we have. We don't really have a problem with that per se, that I can think of where somebody's completely unable to do the job. Fortunately for us, but like my wife's department, specifically, they have a drill that they do, and they have to do it in under 10 and a half minutes. And it's a series of skills, on air, off air, all the different fireground skills. And if they don't meet that 10 and a half minute standard, it's the same for female. It's the same for male. I did it at her department just to do it. I took my gear there on an off day, like we talked about earlier. I took my gear from my department, went to her department, and I did it for time. And it's a pretty hard thing. I say hard, it's taxing, right? But if they don't meet that metric of 10 and a half minutes, they get like one other shot or something like that. I don't know the specifics, but if they do not meet that, they will be let go. They will be fired. So there are departments around here that do that. She's in a very small department. It's a one station department over on the beaches area, in Pinellas County, Madeira Beach, but they specifically have that. We do not have something like that, that you can be let go for as like you pass this, then
Right.
But
Got it. So we'll keep going on the physical fitness part. Just a question. What about rest? Yes, training is important, but so is resting your body. What do you do when your body is physically done? This question is specifically for Mike, but I would like to hear Tyler's thoughts.
I really feel that your rest days are important, or obviously you have your heavy days and your light days, right? So like for me today was a light day. I've been going pretty hard all week doing high intensity kettlebell stuff. I did a good lift yesterday. I try to throw a little bit of cardio in every single day. One thing that I really like to do when I'm walking my dogs is I like to wear a weighted vest. So those will range from 20 to 70 pounds. And for a light day, I might just walk the dogs 3 times and not wear a vest. But at least I'm just getting out. I'm going for a walk. I'm letting my body recover. I don't necessarily need to go crazy and be at the gym 7 days a week. Sure, there are times where I just feel good and I want to go to the gym. I want to train. But, like today, instead of doing any lifts or kettlebell stuff or whatever, I did cardio all day. So I rode, I did the stair stepper, and then I hit the treadmill, and then I hit the sauna, and I was done for the day. So, for me, a lighter day is kind of a cardio based day, or again, just getting out, being outside, walking a distance, especially with the dogs, gives me a good reason to get out and just enjoy some downtime outside. And the reality is you just need to feel your body and just know when you're at that kind of level of too much. We all get run down. I think one big thing that you look at too is just that. Um, what are you doing, after the firehouse? What are you doing when you're not training? What does your job entail? How much extra are you working? What do your side jobs look like? And at a certain point, you don't want to get to that burnout stage. So if maybe going to the gym one day is going to save you and you can go another 5 days and get those kind of that rest and recoup, do it. Because if you're going to burn yourself out and burn the candle at both ends, you need to know your body, and you need to make sure that you're fueling appropriately, you're eating correctly or as best you can, and you're supplementing with it as well. And I think that that's super important to try and at least get a day of rest, or do something a little bit lighter and kind of get that opposite day from your heavy days.
Yeah, so my personal kind of approach to that is, my training at work, my training on the job, my training for the job is very specific to working on those skills and that physical element on the job. Uh, I'll be honest with you, I don't go to the gym too much outside of work. I do go with my wife. Like I said, she works for the fire department as well. But she is very physically fit, very active. So I just keep up with her, honestly. But at the end of the day, for me personally, for the job, I do all of my physical stuff either in gear, or I pull hose, or I do things that are specific for the job, to kind of keep myself up in that level physically for the job. Um, on those rest days, I take those days and I walk my dogs too. I have 3 dogs. I have a Belgian Malinois that's very hyper, very, high needs. So I'm doing that. But just like Mike said, I learn from what my body needs, what I do with it, and how I feel is a big way that I kind of handle those rest days, and how I handle rest. Try to get as much sleep as possible. Um, Obviously, at the firehouse, it's kind of hard sometimes, but when I'm at home, I try to go to sleep early. Get a couple good meals in a day, and walk as much as possible. I like to walk as well. So
Gotcha. If anybody's got any just questions they want to throw in quick, do that. Is there anything that either of you want to bring up or discuss that we might have not gotten to? Mike, is there anything you want to talk about?
I think that kind of rounding this out, I think that the one big takeaway that we've kind of been tiptoeing around, and we talked pre-show a little bit about this too, is some of the big notes to take away from this is what is the culture that you want to develop at your firehouse? And if you can't do that on that large scale, where you can't really affect that positively overall in your firehouse, how do you do that at a small scale? How do you incorporate those 2, 3 guys into doing it? And that's where we were talking about it, during this, is that there's nothing that says you can't train more. There's nothing that says you guys can't get together and do more. So, like Tyler has mentioned multiple times, people are going to walk out. People are going to ask you what they're doing. People are going to want to jump in. So if you start doing that at a small level and develop that training culture where you are focusing on your core competencies, on the skills that are important to the job, people are going to want to do that more. You're going to find friendly competition with it. You guys are going to be able to drill and do more, and you're going to be able to build a positive culture in your firehouse. That is the ultimate goal. We have to make sure that we are moving the ball forward and we are creating a positive training culture, so that we are better prepared when we get out there on the call and we are there for the Super Bowl. Train and train. The one is not go to the Super Bowl. Given that opportunity, don't squander the opportunity. Be ready for it.
yeah, very well said. I do agree. We've been kind of tiptoeing around that all night, with different tips and tricks and our mindsets and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you know, I've said it just like Mike just said it. You inflect that change or infect that one person, they might infect somebody that you don't know, and it's one person at a time, right? If you're doing the job for the right reason, none of us are really looking to change a bunch of people at one time. That's just not, it's not possible. So your little inner circle that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, your mentors, your friends, your coworkers, build that positive energy in there, be supportive, bring them under your wing. Me as an officer, I obviously will be an officer when I need to be, but me and my firehouse is run very informally, uh, in the fact that I acted just like I'm one of the guys and not like messing around and doing that kind of thing. I don't mean it like that, but I am very open about my mishaps. I'm very open about mistakes I make. I'm very open about why I'm doing something, like I said earlier. And that to me creates that positive energy in the firehouse of people aren't afraid to make mistakes. People aren't afraid to go train and fail at something because they know that they're going to be brought right back up by myself or one of my guys. And I try to foster that energy within my firehouse and in my department. And it's very important to kind of mentor these people and make them better, because it is our job at the end of the day to make everybody around us better, one person at a time, one call at a time.
Yeah, very well said. I want to give both of you an opportunity quick to just shout out like Tyler the Grab Factory, and just I know we did it last episode, but just kind of tell us a little bit about that, just in case on the off chance that this reaches someone in Florida.
Yeah. So I have a class called the Grab Factory. We teach at a bunch of different conferences. It's primarily primary search based, residential primary search. We teach at a bunch of different conferences, all aspects inside and outside truck. The outside truck portion is basically what to do as an outside truck company to facilitate a search and assist the engine company with fire attack. We're kind of all over the place. You can find me on Instagram, find us on Instagram. That's pretty much the plug on that. We are partnered with Hen Nozzles right now. So if there's any questions anybody has about Hen Nozzles, or if they're in the area and they want to flow them at their department, let me know. I'm going tomorrow to do a demo tomorrow morning with the department. So Vanguard gloves, again, we talked about it before. They help us out too and support us greatly. So that's pretty much it for me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Mike, I got one question here. Does being a volunteer make you feel like an introvert and make you feel obligated to be ready at all times of the day? Question mark.
That's a really good question. I feel personally for me, I feel like no matter what I'm doing, I've really catered my life around it. I do certain things a certain way. I drive certain routes in case we get calls for medical or fire calls. I feel switched on consistently and constantly. I think one of the most important things, like anything else, is you have to find and achieve that work-life balance. So you can't just have that. You should have something else that you're doing. For me, for years and years, it was and has been hockey with my kids. I was a big part of the hockey rink and being on the board there and doing things behind the scenes administratively. So it gave me another thing to go do. Obviously, you have work during the day and whatnot, but I still had the firehouse. The firehouse was always a consistent for me in my life. It was always going to be there. And it's hard because you get to that point where you feel like I have to go on every call, but just realize that if you're doing your job and everybody else is doing their job and you're building that good culture there, that it's okay to miss stuff because it's still going to go. Like we're still going to have people put the fire out. We're still going to have people respond to the call. And if you don't, that's what mutual aid is for, right? And we always kind of tag team everything. We work as a good team and a good unit, but you really need to make sure that you have work-life balance with everything. And you really need to make sure that that doesn't necessarily create your only identity. Have other things to do, find other things to do, and be able to kind of get out of it and like we tell kids, be a multi-sport athlete, right? Be a multi-sport person, be a multi-thing person, because it's just you need to have stuff to kind of decompress from what you're doing with that consistently.
Absolutely. Do you want to just talk a little bit about the Inglorious Bastards and just plug that and anything else on top of that?
We have the Facebook page, the Instagram page. I put out stuff from time to time when I get time to write. I'm working on doing better with that. If you're on the Facebook page, it's a private group. I monitor that pretty closely. I try to give everybody a space so that if you want to talk about stuff at your department, or even if you want to remain anonymous, and try to go to the community so that you can ask questions about stuff. If you're having trouble with leadership, or you just need advice on how to do things, we try to create a community for people who are the black sheep of the fire service and who are constantly kind of getting pushed aside and having a tough time dealing with it. And just remind everybody that you're not alone. If you're going through it, a lot of us have, and a lot of us have dealt with some things. So keep that in mind, that you're not alone, and that might be a page for you. The only other thing to plug is, I know that they just released it not long ago. Oath Keepers is going to be October 9th through the 11th, 2026. And 6 days ago, we donated over $7,700 to the Warren County Career Center and Firefighter Rescue Survey from last year's Oath Keepers. And we'll also have a props fabrication door, which is their forcible entry door at 2026 Firemanship, from all the proceeds. So anybody who participated, donated, or anything with Oath Keepers this past year and years past, thank you very much, because all that money goes right back into these awesome community career center and charities and different things like that keep the fire service wheels turning. So super appreciative for everybody that was able to attend as a student and donate stuff to it.
Yeah, thank you both for coming on. And I know, Mike, you and I talk all the time, but Tyler, like, everything you stand for, and again, the social media aspect of it, I appreciate it, like, personally, and I know other people do. So thanks to both of you for taking your time to come on here, and then not just tonight, but the other podcasts you guys do, and the way you guys do stuff at your departments. Although I might not see it firsthand, like, I know that it makes an impact for the people that are close to you guys. So again, I do appreciate that. And believe it or not, Mike, there's a lot of people that look up to you with the ultimate respect from YouTube user. But yeah, no, thank you guys again. I really can't, like, put into words how happy I am with how this went and how open you guys are to sharing it. That, like, I've said it before, but like, people that might, like, higher ups in the fire service, like people with this amount of followers, just being so willing to come on to a smaller platform and share. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mike, actually, somebody, one of my guys from my cadre told me earlier, he goes, "You're going on a podcast with Mike Bernard. I actually like that guy, so I might listen, because if it was just you, I wouldn't listen to it."
Yeah, so
Adam, thank you very much for having us on again, and just keep doing what you're doing. You are unique, you are open-minded, and you're doing this for good things. And I cannot wait to see until you are one of the big dogs at episode 50, episode 100. And just know that, like you tell us, you have a lot of people in your corner supporting you, and what you're doing is for the right reasons. And we all truly, really appreciate seeing you do this, because it's a breath of fresh air for a young guy like you to be doing this for us to watch.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So thanks to everyone that tuned in tonight. And leaving the comments, engaging. It gets better with every episode, it seems. So I appreciate everyone that does that, likes and shares and comments everything on social media. It all means a lot. So thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you.